What's up, folks, and welcome in, one and all. Welcome into a brand new edition of the Babin on the Bayou show, live on YouTube and X on this afternoon. It is Tuesday, March 2nd, March 3rd, 2026. Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026. Hope you are doing well, you and your family. Thank you for tuning into the show. Obviously, today we'll lead off. We'll talk about LSU baseball taking their second loss of the season last night, losing to Northeastern Monday night 13-10 in Alex Box Stadium. We'll talk all about that. We'll also talk a little bit of LSU football. Wanted to give my thoughts, my final thoughts on Brian Kelly, Garrett Nussmeier, and the past, and wrap a bow on that, leave it behind us, and we'll just talk about the future, because the future is obviously extremely bright for LSU football under Lane Kiffin. But we'll start by leading off with baseball. Wanted to quickly remind you about our wonderful daily sponsors of the Babin on the Bayou show over at our friends over at Shield Heating and Cooling. The Shield Heating and Cooling, the best AC business in best AC company in the business today. Remember that number, 225-46 Bayou, 225-46 Bayou, BAYU. Call the best team in the AC business today over at Shield Heating and Cooling at that number. Tell them you heard about them from the Babin on the Bayou show, and receive your completely free giveaway for everyone who calls that number. Your completely free AC system clean and check for every AC system in your home if you call our wonderful friends over at Shield Heating and Cooling today at that number, 225-46 Bayou, 225-46 Bayou, BAYU, to get your free AC system clean and check for every AC system in your home, courtesy of our friends over at Shield Heating and Cooling, the daily title sponsor of the Babin on the Bayou show, who we appreciate very, very much. All right, let's get into the show. So obviously, folks, LSU baseball losing yesterday to last night to Northeastern by a final score of 13-10 to the University of Northeastern. Let me fix my hat, folks. Let's put on this board. Let's put on that board. I'm feeling it today because obviously we're talking LSU baseball. Hope you folks are all doing well. So obviously LSU, what's up, Paul Jarrett? What's up, my good friend? Let's get into some of my notes from obviously LSU losing 13-10 last night to Northeastern. So getting into that, it was a sloppy game last night, folks. It was a very sloppy game last night. I mean, LSU, you talk about a pitching staff, you're talking about a pitching staff who only gave up 3 runs in 3 games over the weekend, and they gave up 10 runs in the first 3 innings of the game last night against Northeastern. We've talked about how good your starting rotation has been on the weekend with Kason Evans, Cooper Moore, and William Schmidt. You've also seen great things from dominant outings from Gavin Guidry, Devin Sheeran. Maverick Rizzi looks pretty good. I like what you've seen out of Jaden Newt in the past couple of outings. But besides those guys, what you've really seen lately is you go back to the McNeese game where you surrendered, gave up 7 runs in the first couple of innings against McNeese in your first loss of the season last Tuesday. You give up 10 runs in your first 3 innings last night against Northeastern. Let's get into that one. So Cooper Williams got to start. Cooper Williams got to start in the game, and originally I thought Cooper Williams I thought he was good. I thought he was great. Jay Johnson said he was electric in the first inning of this game, retiring the Northeastern side in order. So it was a good first inning for Cooper Williams, the lefty on the mound. But in the second inning, that's where it kind of all started to fall apart for LSU as a whole. I mean, it was just a sloppy game. Like I said, you committed 4 errors defensively, threw 3 wild pitches, issued 6 free passes, 5 walks, 1 hit by pitch. But going into that second inning, Cooper Williams, after the phenomenal first inning, John Pearson committed an error. A ground ball was hit. Really, it was weird, right? A ground ball was hit right in the spot where normally Seth Dardar would grab that ball. But John Pearson, playing first base for the first time this season, I believe last night, decided to go after that ball instead of staying at first base, which he should have done. Obviously, in that situation, you got to stay at first base in that situation. John Pearson didn't try to hustle back to the bag. Didn't get there in time. Didn't get the ball over to Cooper Williams in time. So he made an error. Obviously, maybe pressing a little bit, trying to show a lot of effort there. But that's kind of what led off the inning. Let's see. Did they leave their bats in Jacksonville? We will definitely get into that. We will definitely get into that. So now, so yeah, Pearson made that error to begin the second inning. Then two ground balls snuck through the infield for two singles that Williams gave up. He also walked a batter after that, so he surrendered one run before Zach Cowan came in the game with only I believe no outs in the second inning, and Cooper Williams already gave up a run. And Zach Cowan came in the game, and look, he's a guy I really want to talk about because Zach Cowan has been struggling lately. Zach Cowan has been struggling lately to start the season. Zach Cowan has not been good. That is something we will definitely get into for sure. But Cowan originally came in the game for Williams with nobody out and already a runner in the second. John Pearson unfortunately committed his second error of the second inning. Look, Pearson, I really like him. I think he's obviously made some clutch hits for the Tigers, some clutch home runs. He's got a lot of power, but he struggled in the second inning at first base, committing two errors. But then Cowan got a strikeout and a pop-up to get two quick outs with only two runners, two runs scored so far in the second inning for Northeastern. So you thought Zach Cowan was going to have a good shot to get out of that inning with that really nice strikeout, clutch strikeout, and that pop fly. But then after that, you had a situation where he gave up a ground ball, two RBI single that allowed runs 3 and 4 to score in the second inning for Northeastern. So Northeastern scored 4 runs in the second inning. Zach Cowan comes back out in the third. Does Cowan? He gave up a leadoff double in the third. Then he struck out the next two batters. So he looked like after that leadoff double, he shook it off with those next two strikeouts. But then he gave up a few more runs on 2 singles. And then his last batter that he faced was a guy that was batting under 100 to start the season, a guy who really hadn't been doing well. But Zach Cowan again leaves another breaking pitch up in the zone, which has been a struggle for him thus far this season, and gives up a 3-run bomb. The ball is deposited in the left field landing, and just like that, Northeastern is up 8-0, and that's kind of what happened. And look, a guy I'm not trying to be super critical of him. I'm really not, because I know how good he was for this team in 2025. Zach Cowan and Kason Evans were your top 2 arms out of the bullpen. They were your top 2 arms out of the bullpen in 2025. And a big part of that team, Zach Cowan, was that national championship team in 2025. Look back to that start he made in Omaha against Arkansas. But Zach Cowan does not look like the same guy this season. He does not look good, folks, and it continues to be a problem. It's concerning. I'm officially pressing the panic button a little bit on Zach Cowan because it's concerning. He's pitched 4 innings thus far this season, giving up 12 hits, 6 runs, 2 doubles, 2 homers, 2 walks, and 8 strikeouts. And he's leaving the ball up in the zone way too much. And when you look at the what he does, and Zach Cowan's thing is he relies on that changeup, he relies on that breaking ball and keeping it down in the zone, and he has not done that enough. Jay Johnson talked about that in the post-game press conference, his time with the media post-game yesterday, just leaving the ball up in the zone too much. I mean, when I saw that 3-run bomb that Zach Cowan allowed last night, I was like, another breaking ball, another all-speed pitch left up in the zone. It has continually been a problem, and Zach Cowan does not look like the same guy that we saw in 2025. That was such a big part of the national championship run. He has not looked that good, and it is very, very concerning because it's been every outing. It's been multiple outings that he has struggled in to start the season. So it's 8-0. Reagan Ricken, the freshman, comes in the game. Reagan Ricken walks a batter, throws a wild pitch, gives up an RBI single and an RBI double that allows runs 9 and 10 for Northeastern across the plate in the third inning. So I think Ricken in his first two collegiate appearances looked really good in his first two collegiate appearances. But then he kind of struggled a little bit in that third inning, giving up 2 runs on that RBI single and that RBI double. He did come back in the fourth inning and pitch a clean fourth inning. Did Reagan Ricken, and that was really good. I believe he retired the side in the fourth inning on just 6 pitches. So Reagan Ricken looked good in his first two collegiate appearances. He struggled a little bit in the third, came back in the fourth, and retired the side on 6 pitches. You see the potential in the freshman Reagan Ricken, a guy who eventually will probably be a weekend rotation, weekend starter at some point during his time over the next 3 seasons at LSU. Freshman Zion Theophilus came in the fifth and pitched a clean fifth inning, and then Theophilus gave up 2 doubles in the sixth that allowed another run to score. I do like Theophilus's breaking ball. His breaking stuff does look pretty good. Now he did give up those 2 doubles to surrender another run in the sixth, but he's a freshman that's growing into his role and going to get better. Marcos Paz, another freshman, came into the seventh. You see the potential in Marcos Paz, but he struggled a little bit in the seventh, giving up 2 runs. Started with Jack Ruckert committed an error playing second base, which was a little bit odd, as we talked about. It was just a sloppy game defensively with 4 errors committed by the LSU defense last night. So you have that Jack Ruckert error at second base. Then Paz issued a walk. He threw a wild pitch. It was a pass ball in the inning, and he allowed a single. And all of that added up to allow Northeastern to score 2 more runs in the top of the seventh to bring runs 12 and runs 13 home to the plate for Northeastern in the 7th inning. And then Grant Fontenot didn't allow a run pitching in the 8th inning. And then DJ Primo also didn't allow a run in the 9th inning. But again, sloppy game. 4 errors, 3 wild pitches, 6 free passes, between those 6 free passes between 5 walks and 1 hit by pitch. And again, you've seen great things. Your starting rotation looks great on the weekend between Kaysen Evans, Cooper Moore, and William Schmidt, and Sheeran, and Guidry, and Rizzi, and Newt has looked good. But Zach Cowan doesn't look good. He doesn't look good. And I don't want to get on him too much because I know how important he was to this team in their championship run in 2025, but he absolutely does not look like the same guy. He's just leaving the ball up in the zone way too much, and that is something that he has definitely struggled with lately. Moving on to the offense. So the offense struggled to get going early. They did score 10 runs in the game, but only 2 of those runs came in the first 6 innings. LSU's starting lineup last night only went 4 for 21 without an extra base hit. Jay Johnson decided in the later innings of the game, Coach Johnson decided to put in some younger guys, take out most of his lineup, most of his starters in the final couple of innings. So you saw Jack Ruckert, Ethan Kloss, William Patrick, Daniel Harden, guys like that, Eddie Yaman come into the game. And those younger guys actually did a good job of putting runs up on the board. You were down 13-2 going into the bottom of the 7th, about to get run ruled, and you put up 8 runs in the final 8 runs in the final 3 innings to make it, you only lost by 3. You only lost 13-10. Obviously in the game, but really it was an ugly game last night. But I did like the one positive is how your younger players played in the final 3 innings of the game. They did have a little bit of help with a lot of walks issued and a lack of command really in the final 3 innings from the back half of the Northeastern pitching staff. But you saw some good things. Eddie Yaman hit a 2-run homer in the 8th, which was awesome to see. Eddie Yaman, a guy who redshirted on the team in 2025, didn't really play at all in 2025, and he hasn't played much this season, but he gets an at-bat and a couple at-bats late in the game last night and gets a 2-run bomb. So that was really good to see for Eddie Yaman. Freshman Ethan Kloss hit a triple in the 9th. Jack Ruckert, a freshman, had an RBI single in the 9th. Freshman William Patrick hit a single. Daniel Harden had an RBI single. So again, those young guys did a really good job late in the game, scoring 8 runs in the final 3 innings to make the game seem to appear. The final score appears closer than the game actually was, because it was 13-2 going into the 7th inning, and it finished at going into the bottom of the 7th inning, and then it finished at 13-10. And then Steven Monster Milam had 2 RBIs early in the game as well. But it was a good fight from the younger guys. I really liked what you saw from the younger guys in you saw Yaman, Daniel Harden, Jack Rucker, Ethan Kloss. All of those guys came in the game and gave you a little bit of energy. First time under Jay, we have a full weekend of starters. Yes, we will get into that. Look, recapping this game again, it was a struggle once again. It was a struggle once again for your starters, even though the younger guys came in and did well. Your starters this weekend, when you look at it, looking at a few numbers. Now, this does not count Monday night's game because Monday night's game kind of skews the numbers a little bit with what your freshmen and your younger guys did late in the game. But between Friday, Saturday, and Sunday of this weekend, LSU hit 165 at the plate this weekend, only 2 for 24 with runners in scoring position. Your veteran leaders between 4 guys, and Derek Curiel, Stephen Milam, Zach York, and Cade Aaron Beatty. Those 4 guys combined to go 7 for 49 in 4 games this weekend. So again, your starting lineup struggled this weekend. It was not a good offensive weekend. We can be honest about that. I like what I saw from the younger guys late in the game, though, against Northeastern. But look, I think coming out of this game, your next game tomorrow night, Wednesday night, at first pitch is at 6 o'clock. LSU goes on the road to Lafayette to play the UL Lafayette Raging Cajuns, which I'm really excited to see. The Raging Cajuns are 9-3 on the season, and they've won 9 of their last 10 games. So UL Lafayette is going to come into that game with a lot of momentum, and they'll have a lot of fans in their home ballpark tomorrow. But kind of an overview. Your starting rotation, as Paul said earlier, we can get to that comment. As Paul said earlier, first time under Jay Johnson, we have a full weekend of starters. Talking to people, I feel like through 3 weekends, this is the best spot your starting rotation has ever been in under Jay Johnson through 3 weekends to start the season because of who you have in Casey Evans, Cooper Moore, and William Schmidt. So obviously that looks good. You love what you see from Gavin Guidry and Devin Sheeran. Maverick Rizzi has looked good for the majority of his outings. Jaden Newt has looked good in his past few outings. But again, midweek, the guys on the midweek, the guys in the back end of your rotation, you're still building depth there. You gave up 7 runs in the first couple of innings against McNeese last Tuesday. You gave up 10 runs in the first 3 innings of the game against Northeastern last night. So you still have things that you definitely need to work on in the back half of the bullpen. But I do enjoy that. I do feel like this is the best spot you've been in Friday through Sunday from a starting rotation perspective. Through the first 3 weeks to start the season, it's the best spot you've been in under Jay Johnson, because your Sunday spot, your Sunday starter has really been a Johnny Holstaff approach the past couple of seasons. And now you got William Schmidt there, who has looked awesome in his past few starts. Love what you're seeing from William Schmidt, but you still have some work to do, obviously, in the midweek with the back half of your rotation. We'll get into the offense in a little bit. What up, Junior? What up, Paulie J? Y'all killed it on your duo show. Thank you, Randy. I appreciate you, my friend. Y'all going to do that again eventually. I guarantee we will do it at some point this season. Definitely going to have my buddy Paul Jarrett back on the show. Look, I think for the offense, touching on the offense, again, it was not a great weekend for the offense when you look at the numbers, but you've got to have faith in Jay Johnson. You've got to have faith, because Jay Johnson has never had a bad offense. In the previous 4 seasons that he's been here, Jay Johnson's never had a bad offense. And his offense in the first 8 games of the season, I mean, guys, they peppered the ball in the Jacksonville series against Indiana, Notre Dame, and UCF. They mashed the ball in that series. They were leading the SEC in team batting average in the first 8 games of the season. They are struggling in the past 4 to 5 games starting wise as an offense, but they're going to figure it out. Jay Johnson knows it. He's talked about it. I think you could say at times this weekend they were a little bit too aggressive. They were pressing a little bit. I feel like when a Jay Johnson's offense, when an LSU offense is at its best, it's pitch selection, it's plate vision, it's plate discipline, it is not being too aggressive and just waiting for the right pitch. And sometimes it felt like you were a little too aggressive and pressing a little bit too much this weekend. And you kind of, Jay Johnson talked about that yesterday. I believe somebody in the post game asked him, like, has a team kind of wavered from their plan at the plate? And he said that would be right. They wavered a little bit from their plan at the plate, again, being a little too aggressive, pressing a little bit too much. You did draw plenty of walks in the game yesterday, so I think you did a better job yesterday. Of course, you put up 10 runs, but you still, I think, again, the plate discipline, the plate vision, the pitch selection, that was what made the difference in the first 2 weeks of the season after the Jacksonville series. And I feel like you've been a little bit too aggressive at the plate in the past couple of games. But look, you gotta love where the starting rotation is at least on the weekend. You need some guys to pick it up. I still believe in Cooper Williams, even though he has been just okay since opening weekend. He's been just okay. He hasn't been awesome, but of course he is a guy that you trust to bounce back, hopefully, and figure it out. I still like Cooper Williams, but I am concerned about Zach Allen, and I'll be honest about that. I do not like what I'm seeing from him. It feels like every time he goes out and he pitches for LSU, the opposing offenses are seeing him very, very well. That's what it feels like to me. So obviously not great. Being down 10-0 early in that game yesterday, last night, not great at all. Something you need to work on. But you got to trust Jay Johnson. You got to trust this coaching staff. They have earned the right to be trusted, winning 2 national championships in the past 3 seasons. And you have proof of concept from this offense from the first 8 games when they were absolutely smoking the baseball. They've had a bad week. But adversity, slumps, all of that, it's a part of baseball. Jay Johnson's teams in the past at LSU have gone through it before. You got to trust him to figure it out. He's going to be able to figure it out. I would say the more concerning thing than the lineup is the back end of the staff behind the 7 guys I've mentioned, between Case and Evans, Cooper Moore, William Schmidt, Devin Sheeran, Gavin Guidry, Jaden Newt, and Matt Rizzi. Behind those 7 guys, you have some freshmen, you have some other guys as well, but you need to see a little bit more consistency from the back half of your pitching staff behind the 7 guys that I mentioned before. But again, LSU drops the game. They lose 13-10. They are 11-2 now on the season, so it is not full panic button time yet, folks. The Tigers' next game tomorrow night, really interesting one in Lafayette against the Raging Cajuns. First true road game of the season for LSU, and playing a team that has won 9 of their last 10 games. So that ULL team has been really good lately. They've been really good. So you definitely need to bring your A game tomorrow. That is our LSU baseball recap. Let's get into the comments a little bit here. Randy, Babin knows I always love to join him. Come check me out, Randy. Walk It Off Talk going at 6. Yeah, obviously, go tune in to Paul's show, Walk It Off at 6. Definitely one to pay attention to. Paul does a great job with that. William Schmidt is looking like a Friday night guy. If pitching translates successfully to SEC and postseason play, I love to see it. Paulie doesn't bother me. Paulie, thank you so much, Paulie J. I will pull up, absolutely. Who starts tomorrow night, Junior? Love seeing Eddie Yaman show out last night. Yeah, I that was cool. Like, the Yaman thing was cool. The Yaman thing was very cool. Maybe you see Jaden Newt tomorrow night, because I think he only pitched 1 inning over the weekend. So I think maybe you see Jaden Newt tomorrow night. That's what I would think. Maybe that's the guy I would go to, depending on what Jay wants to do. Obviously, Jay knows better than me, but I guess Newt is kind of a guy that I'm thinking. And then I have heard a few things from people. I heard a few things this weekend about Cooper Moore's doing great. Should he be our Friday night guy? William Schmidt is doing great. Should he be our Friday night guy? My opinion on it is this. You only gave up 3 runs in 3 games as a pitching staff over the weekend, not counting the game on Monday. After, in those games where you saw Evans, Moore, and Schmidt pitch over the weekend, you only give up 3 runs and you dominate as a pitching staff. After that weekend, there's no point in changing right now because of how good they look this weekend. I don't see the point in changing. I don't see the point in getting the guys possibly out of their rhythm. And especially with what they did this weekend in 27 innings, only giving up 3 runs Friday through Sunday. I don't see the point personally in changing right now. But that is all the baseball content that I have for the show today. Let's see. I would switch Schmidt and Evans. I don't see you switching anything right now when you only gave up 3 runs in 3 games. I don't see the point with what you were able to do this weekend as a pitching staff. I just don't see the point in that personally. It'd be different if you gave up like Evans gave up like 5 runs or 6 runs on Friday against Dartmouth, but that's not what happened. In 27 innings, you gave up 3 runs. There's no point in changing the plan when the plan is clearly working. That's just my opinion. LSU women's basketball, wanted to update you on them. They finished the regular season, wrapped up the regular season Sunday with a win at Mississippi State in Starkville, finished with a 26-4 regular season overall record, finished 12-4 in SEC conference play during the regular season. LSU will be a 4 seed in the upcoming SEC tournament. They're going to receive a double bye as one of the top 4 seeds in the SEC tournament, only behind the top 3 seeds, I believe, are South Carolina, Vanderbilt, and Texas. But as the 4th seed, LSU gets a double bye, meaning their first game in the SEC tournament is not going to be until Friday at 1:30 p.m. At 1:30 p.m. Friday on ESPN. And then with the regular season being over, some Tigers earned some postseason awards. Flau'jae Johnson and Michaela Williams were named to the All-SEC first team. Zakiya Johnson was named to the All-SEC freshman team. And then Malaysia Fulwiley, who has been really good lately in the past 4 to 5 games, Malaysia Fulwiley, was named as the SEC 6th Woman of the Year. So excited to see LSU women's basketball coming up in SEC tournament, and most importantly March, because March is what matters. March is what matters the most. Let's get into a few more comments here. Hey, Senior, love Junior show. Y'all did a great job with Junior, no doubt. Yeah. Justin Babin in the comments. That's my dad. I obviously love him getting in the chat, obviously, and stuff like that. You want to know who I learned it from? You want to know who I got the content from? That's the guy I got it from right there. That's the guy I got my sports knowledge from. Wanted to touch on one more thing in today's show. We haven't talked a lot of LSU football lately. Obviously, this show has been a majority LSU baseball show over the last couple of weeks, which I don't mind. I love LSU baseball, obviously. But I wanted to kind of now, I did this a little bit in January, talked about it a little bit in January where the show was only on YouTube. But now that we are on both YouTube and X, Twitter as well, kind of wanted to touch on my thoughts on the past and Brian Kelly and Garrett Nussmeier. Spend one episode, one segment touching on that, and then leave it behind me and just talk about the future at LSU, because it is extremely bright under Lane Kiffin leading the way. And the reason why is Garrett Nussmeier made some news last Friday, I believe, when he was meeting with the media at the NFL draft scouting combine in last Friday. And Garrett said that he has been injured. He was injured on day 2 of fall camp, which is not what we originally were told, which is not like originally it was like the first 4 weeks of the season. It was like, Garrett's fine. Garrett's doing okay. He's fine. He's just got to play better, because obviously Garrett had a bad season in 2025. He did not play well, but maybe Garrett was hurt on day 2 of fall camp. Maybe he wasn't hurt on day 2 of fall camp. The reality is we don't really We don't really know. Maybe he's saying it because he wants to be like, hey, don't look at my 2025 season. I know it was pretty bad. Look at my 2024 season. Because believe it or not, folks, in 2024, Garrett threw for over 4,000 passing yards. Like, don't forget that. Like, he had a great 2024 season. That's why he was going into 2025. LSU was considered a college football playoff team contender, and Garrett Nussmeier was considered a Heisman Trophy frontrunner in 2025 going into that season for a reason, because of passing for over 4,000 passing yards in 2025. Look, obviously, there's a lot of turmoil. There's a lot of stuff been going on. Some people, I don't think a lot of fans want to defend Brian Kelly. A lot of people don't like Brian Kelly. There are some people that may say, Brian Kelly wasn't that bad, or he was, transparent, or he was whatever, like all of that and stuff. Look, here's my opinion. I think Garrett Nussmeier gets a lot of heat for how 2025 went, and maybe part of that is deserved. Because maybe he was a little entitled going into 2025 because he was being so hyped up. The team was being so hyped up going into 2025 when you look at it, because everybody was like, you got one of the top transfer portal classes in the country. Like, look at everything you got. And obviously you finished with a 7-6 season, and Brian Kelly gets fired after the Texas A&M game, one of the most embarrassing losses I've ever witnessed as an LSU football fan, because Texas A&M and their fans took over Tiger Stadium in the second half of that game. Look, I think Brian Kelly bringing him in 22 Brian Kelly in 2022, maybe that was the right decision at the time, because of, the program was in shambles. The last couple of years under Coach O were not good. And I love Coach O, and I always love Coach O, because he led us to, he was the head coach for the best college football season I've ever seen with Joe Burrow in 2019. And the best college football team ever. But the last few seasons under Coach O were a struggle. And you needed to bring in a guy, a CEO like Brian Kelly. But I think Brian Kelly made wrong move after wrong move after wrong move. And it always felt to me like he was a little bit full of himself. And the reason I say that, the first mistake that Brian Kelly made, was letting Corey Raymond leave the building in 2022. He let Corey Raymond, or he tried to get him. Maybe he didn't let him leave. He tried to get him back. But eventually, Corey Raymond left the building for 2 years and wasn't on staff. And Brian Kelly's first 2 years, he went to the Florida Gators for 2 seasons. Look how that ended up for you. You hire your special teams coach, your special teams guy. Your special teams was atrocious in 2022. You hire Matt House to come be your DC, who was an assistant in the NFL. You bring him over, and he is the DC, the defensive coordinator for likely the worst LSU defense in football that we have ever seen in the history of LSU football in 2023. A team that wasted an amazing and phenomenal Heisman year for one, JD5, Jaden Daniels. So you wasted that. You have 2024 where you go, 8-4? You don't even sniff the playoffs in 2024, really. You're so hyped up in 2025. Everybody is like, look at the transfer portal class that bringing in. Garrett Nussmeier's coming back after, a 4,000-yard season, over 4,000 yards in 2024 passing. Look at all the guys, all the weapons you have on offense, defense. Blake Baker's second season. Oh, by the way, you had to bring Corey Raymond back 2 years after he left because of how bad your secondary, your defense was, and how atrocious it was in 2023. Because Corey Raymond is the architect of DBU. DBU at LSU does not happen without Corey Raymond. So you had to rewrite that mistake. You had to bring Blake Baker back, who you let leave in 2022 and go to Missouri for a couple seasons. And then you have a situation where you go into that season. We could talk about the fact that in your first 3 seasons, week 1, you come out looking sluggish in 2 games against Florida State and 1 game against USC. You righted that ship against Clemson in 2025, and everybody's on cloud 9 after that Clemson game because LSU finally won a game opening weekend, and we were all excited. But even after that, the offense looked sluggish against Louisiana Tech, against Florida. You had to pick off DJ Lagway five times to beat Florida by just 2 scores in that game because of how your offense was playing. Your offense in 2025, with all the weapons, with all the transfer portal pieces you had, never ever put up more than 25 points in a single game against one FBS school. They were bad. They were terrible. I mean, when you look at it, Garrett Nussmeier, the injury, what the heck is going on with that? Why was Brian Kelly, why was the staff, they were not forthright. They were not forthcoming. They were not transparent about Garrett Nussmeier's injury. We didn't find out about it till what? After the Florida game? Like, look, it was a disaster. The way it was handled was a disaster in 2025. And that's the bottom line of how it was handled. And Brian Kelly wanted to be a CEO. He wanted to come in and delegate and bring in a good staff and just be a delegator and all of that and be a CEO. And it didn't work. It didn't work because he was at LSU and he never fully embraced the culture of LSU. And that's why, I mean, it's crazy to think about. The 3 coaches prior to Brian Kelly at LSU all won a national championship. Brian Kelly never even sniffed the college football playoffs, except for maybe year 1 where you made the SEC tournament, and in year 1 you actually weren't bad in year 1. So look, and then it went downhill from there. Years 2, 3, and 4 were not as good as you were in year 1. So look, Brian Kelly was a guy that I never really liked, that I never really appreciated. I didn't appreciate how cocky he was, how full of himself he was. But now we're moving on to 2026, and the future is so bright under Lane Kiffin. You signed one of the best college football transfer portal classes we've ever seen, 40-plus transfer portal prospects. You signed that class, that transfer portal class. You signed 3 of the top 5 transfer portal prospects out of the portal in January. And now, I mean, look at what Lane Kiffin did. The perfect illustration of it is this. Lane Kiffin, the visit he had when Sam Levitt came to Baton Rouge didn't end well. It didn't end well because Damon Williams was Lane Kiffin was still they wanted Damon Williams, wanted to go after Damon Williams because they thought he was entering the transfer portal. So it didn't end well with Sam Levitt. Lane Kiffin flies to Knoxville to meet Sam Levitt in the Knoxville airport. Like, he meets Sam Levitt in the Knoxville airport for an hour between trips for Levitt, between trips from Tennessee to Miami. He has a visit with the number 1 offensive lineman in the Jordan Seaton visits LSU. And then, like, the same day Jordan Seaton leaves LSU, leaves his visit, he goes down to Atlanta, flies to Atlanta to personally meet with Jordan Seaton and talk with him again. Brian Kelly never did any of that. He never did any of that. It was like he wasn't hungry. It was like he didn't want it. It was like he just wanted to be a CEO and be a delegate. And for all the criticism you could have of Lane Kiffin, for everything, because nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect except the Lord above, of course. But for all the criticism you could have of Lane Kiffin, he is a football coach. And he is a dang good football coach. And he is a dang good recruiter. And he is really good in the transfer portal. The portal king. The portal king. The NIL king. Like, that's what you talk about when you talk about Lane Kiffin. And now you have a guy here who 2026 is going to be, I'm telling you, the preseason hype for 2026 for Lane Kiffin's first season is going to be off the charts, folks, because now you got a guy who has embraced LSU, who has embraced Louisiana, had a phenomenal offseason. I mean, Charlie Weiss Jr., your offensive coordinator, and Jake Olson, your safeties coach, turned down jobs in the NFL to stay with LSU and Lane Kiffin. Blake Baker turned down a job to go take the head coaching job, his first ever head coaching job at Tulane, his alma mater. He turned that job down to stay with Lane Kiffin. There is buy-in. There's belief. There's the program, the fans, everybody is bought in now. But Brian Kelly, again, what he did here, you could say that coming in, it was a good hire, maybe not, because it's what you needed. You needed a CEO after the disaster of the last few seasons under Coach O. But he never fully embraced Louisiana. He never fully embraced LSU, and he never fully seemed like he wanted it. And no, he was not fully transparent with everything that was going on, especially with the Garrett Nussmeier injury. And I'm not even saying Nuss got injured on day 2 of fall camp. He could be saying that because he wants scouts to look the other way and not look at the 2025 season because he was hurt. But the bottom line, folks, is the hope is here. The positivity is here. Everybody is ready for 2026. Wanted to put a bow on the 2025 season. Wanted to put a bow on Garrett Nussmeier, Brian Kelly. Gonna have my boy Austin Taylor, coming on the show Thursday evening. The host of the Fourth and Go podcast coming on the show Thursday evening to talk a little spring football. Spring practice starts on March the 24th. I am so pumped up. I am so happy about it. I can't wait for it. And yeah, it's gonna be a good one, folks. And I just wanted to start on that and talk about that. And yeah, just wanted to wrap a bow on Brian Kelly, on Garrett Nussmeier, on that whole situation. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have for the show today. We got a lot of comments that I want to get to. So I want to touch on that. The comments that we have. Let's see. We already went through that. I think Newt's gonna. I would love Newt to start. I like Newt for sure. We covered that. Let's see. Let's see. Great to meet you in Omaha too. Yeah, that was fun. We were in Omaha last year. We were in Omaha last year. Who gives a crap about Brian Kelly? We are all riding the Lane train. Now, yeah, I mean, I get that, but there's people are still talking about him, saying he was the most transparent coach in LSU history this week. And there was news Garrett Nussmeier made headlines in the media about everything going on with he was injured in fall camp. But I wanted to give my thoughts on Brian Kelly and then close the book and move the chapter. Again, happy to have Austin on the show Thursday evening to talk about spring football. I will always love Coach O2. Absolutely. Let's see. All aboard. The first mistake he made is when he tried to go talk like somebody from the South in whatever event that was. Yeah, yeah. It seemed forced and it seemed faked, and it seemed like he never fully embraced Louisiana and he never fully embraced the culture. BK was a nightmare the last couple of years. Yes, he was. Our recruiting haul this year is insane. Yes, we'll definitely touch on that on Thursday with Austin. Junior, the crazy thing about Lane is he is working as hard as Jay, or so it appears. Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, Jay Johnson eats, sleeps, and breathes baseball. He's the best college baseball coach in the country. Lane Kiffin eats, sleeps, and breathes football. He's constantly on the recruiting trail. He is chasing recruits. He is visiting recruits. He is going and going and going, and he doesn't stop. And we're so pumped up for everything that is going to happen in the future with Lane Kiffin. The other thing about Lane is outside of his sometimes outlandish social media comments, which I love, Lane is steady grinding on a day-to-day basis and putting the program ahead of himself, putting the shine on the program and not himself. Absolutely. And then I'm just curious, has anyone came out with a stat of what each roster cost money in the SEC? I would love to know that. $40 million roster for LSU in 2026. $40 million roster for LSU in 2026. That's what I'm hearing. That's what they're talking about, possibly. Like in the I don't like 40 million, like absolutely blowing it out of the water. I believe you had an $18 million roster in 2025 under Brian Kelly, and you have just blown that completely out of the water with what you're doing with Lane Kiffin. But no, I wanted to touch on football. That'll be the last time I plan to talk about Garrett Nussmeier and Brian Kelly. Excited to have Austin on the show Thursday. We will be back tomorrow to preview LSU's big game Wednesday night against ULL, a team who, again, has won 9 of their last 10 games. So ULL is hungry, and they've been playing really good lately. So LSU's got to fix it, and they better take their A game to Lafayette Wednesday night. But I thank you folks, as always, for tuning in to the show. Remember, like the video, share the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're not already subscribed. Thank you folks, as always, so much for tuning in. And remember, God bless, go Tigers, and have a great one.